By the time Claire Rivers realized she had read the cocktail menu 3 times, the ice in her drink had melted into a thin ring of water. Marinos on the lake glowed in soft yellow. Cutlery chimed. People laughed. A pianist in the corner drifted through something slow. Outside the tall windows, Lake Michigan lay dark and flat, catching stray lights from the city. Claire checked her phone. 7:46 p.m. No new messages, no missed calls, just the last text from Robert that afternoon. You're going to like him. Normal, kind, trust me. She had trusted him enough to put on the pale blue dress, pin her hair up, and leave a stack of contracts on her kitchen counter instead of under her hand. Her board would assume she was at some networking dinner. Her assistant thought she had a migraine. No one needed to know she was sitting alone watching her drink sweat. She finished the last weak sip and set the glass down. A wet circle marked the white tablecloth. At the next table, a woman laughed bright and easy. Claire's gaze flicked that way, then back to the candle in front of her. Easier to study the tiny flame than to admit the sting in her chest. Her fingers drifted to the thin gold bracelet on her wrist, the one thing she wore that had nothing to do with Aurora Dynamics or investors. Her mother's bracelet. She turned it once, a habit more than a thought, and let it fall when she heard a voice at her elbow. Miss Rivers. The host stood beside her, table hands clasped politely. His tie had slipped a little, like he had been tugging at it. Yes, she said. There are 3 little girls asking for you at the front, he said. They said their dad sent them. They used your name. My name, Claire repeated. Claire. He offered a quick, helpless smile. They're not really taking no for an answer. That was odd enough to get her to stand. The noise of the restaurant dulled as she followed him past the bar. The smell of garlic wine and dish soap thickened near the kitchen doors, then thinned again by the entrance. Conversations dipped around them. People always noticed when something out of place appeared in a room built for smooth evenings. 3 small figures in red puffer jackets were very out of place. They stood in front of the host's stand in a tight row, like they were holding a line. Their cheeks were pink from the November wind. 3 blonde ponytails stuck out from their jackets at 3 different angles. The tallest one saw Claire first. She bumped the middle one with her shoulder. That's her, she whispered too loud. The middle girl stepped forward a little. The smallest clutched a folded piece of paper with both hands. The host cleared his throat. Girls, you can't be up here without an adult. It's important, the middle one said. Her voice shook for a second, then steadied. She looked up at Claire. Are you Claire? The room behind Claire softened into a blur of light and noise. She focused on the 3 faces in front of her. I am, she said. Who are you? I'm Lucy Walker. She pointed quickly left and right. This is Emma. That's Hazel. Our dad is Eli Walker. He was supposed to meet you here, but he's really sick. Emma edged closer to Lucy's side. He tried to get ready, she said quietly. He put on lots of shirts. He hated all of them. Hazel nodded, ponytail bouncing. He practiced what he would say. In the mirror. We heard him from the hallway. Lucy's jaw tightened. He couldn't find his phone to call you. Then he started shivering. He kept saying, she's going to think I don't care. He does care. We promised him we would tell you. The words landed deeper than Claire expected. She pictured a man she had never met standing in front of a fogged bathroom mirror, trying on shirts, practicing a greeting. Getting sick anyway, watching the time slide past 7. She pictured herself 15 minutes ago, scrolling, deciding this was why she avoided blind dates. The simple thing would be to nod, thank them for the information, tell the host to call them a cab, and to add their father to the private list of people she did not have time for. Instead, she heard herself ask, how old are you 3? 7, Hazel said at once. Almost 8, Lucy corrected. In March. They let you walk here? Claire asked. We walked ourselves, Lucy said. Her chin came up a fraction. In the dark, Claire asked. It's only 6 blocks, Hazel blurted. We stayed together. We looked both ways. Emma hugged the folded paper tighter. There was ink on the side of her hand. Girls, what on earth were you thinking? The new voice carried a mix of relief and scolding. A woman in a navy coat rushed in through the glass doors, scarf half on gray hair slipping from its clip. She looked like she had sprinted from a bus stop. Mrs. Patel, Hazel muttered. I turned my back for 1 minute. The woman pressed a hand over her heart. 1 minute to take the kettle off, and then no girls. Only a note on the counter. Went to fix Dad's date. Fix his date? Who writes that? Lucy flinched. We left a note so you wouldn't be scared. I am 63. I am always scared when children vanish. She blew out a breath, then looked up at Claire properly. You must be Claire. Yes, Claire said. Mrs. Patel's face crumpled into apology. I am so sorry. Mr. Walker is very sick. High fever. He fell asleep on the couch. When I realized they were gone, I called a taxi and came straight here. If you want to be angry with me or with him for not locking the door, not with them." Claire looked at the three girls. Hazel tried to look unbothered and did not quite manage it. Lucy stood stiffly like she was holding herself together by will alone. Emma's fingers dug into the folded paper. "What is that?" Claire asked. Emma opened it carefully, as if the creases might tear. It was an old receipt pressed flat. In large block letters across the blank side, someone had written, "Marinos on the Lake, Friday 7 p.m. Claire." The name at the top was smudged but readable, Eli Walker. He had written it big, as if he needed the reminder. "I'm not angry," Claire said. The truth surprised her a little. The host shifted his weight. Mrs. Patel blinked. The piano changed songs behind them. Outside, the wind pushed rain against the glass with a soft tap. Claire glanced once toward her table by the window. The empty glass, the flickering candle. Then she looked back at the girls. "Mrs. Patel," she said, "do you have a car here?" "No," Mrs. Patel said. "Taxi." "I drove." Claire reached into her clutch and brought out her keys. They caught the light. "If you're all right riding with a stranger, I can take you back to Eli. You can give me the address on the way." Hope washed over three small faces at once. "That would be very kind," Mrs. Patel said quietly. "Girls," she added, slipping into automatic authority. "What do we say?" "Thank you," they chorused. The host stepped aside. The diners turned back to their plates, pretend uninterested, as Claire led the little parade to the door. When she pulled it open, November air rushed in sharp and cold, smelling of wet pavement and lake water. It slid under the hem of her dress and raised goosebumps up both arms. The three red jackets pressed close as they stepped out into the night behind her. "All right," Claire said, guiding them toward the parking lot, breath puffing white in front of her. "Let's go find your dad." The valet stand was closed for the night, so Claire led them across the lot herself, heels ticking on the damp asphalt. The cold seemed to sharpen every sound. Tires hissed along Lakeshore Drive. A horn honked somewhere far off. Her breath came out in small white clouds. "Which one is yours?" Hazel asked, hopping from crack to crack in the pavement. "The black SUV," Claire said. Hazel let out a low whistle. "Looks like a spaceship." Mrs. Patel clicked her tongue. "Hazel." "I did not say it was bad," Hazel said. "Spaceships are cool." Claire pressed the key fob. Lights blinked, mirrors folded out. She opened the back door and hesitated. "Everyone buckled," she said. "No arguments." Lucy climbed in first, scooting to the far seat. Hazel clambered in after her. Emma paused and glanced down at her shoes, leaving small damp prints on the concrete. "It's all right," Claire said. "The car will survive." Emma nodded and climbed in, careful not to step on the leather. Mrs. Patel rounded to the front passenger side. When she settled in, she held her purse tightly in her lap as if it might misbehave. Claire started the engine. Warm air began to creep out of the vents, carrying a faint new car smell, and the ghost of the perfume she had put on an hour before. "Seatbelts?" she asked. She heard 3 clicks in the back, one in the front. "Good." She pulled out of the lot and turned onto the street. The lake slid by on her right, flat, black edged with silver. For a moment, no one spoke. The hum of the tires and the low jazz still running in her head from the restaurant filled the quiet. "You have heated seats," Hazel announced, wiggling. "My butt is baking." Emma stifled a laugh. Lucy gave in and giggled. Even Mrs. Patel's mouth twitched. Claire felt her own lips tug upward before she could stop them. "Evanston right?" she asked. "Yes," Mrs. Patel said. "North. I can tell you when to turn." They rode under a stretch of streetlights that painted the car in gold, then shadow gold, then shadow. Traffic thinned as the city center fell away behind them. "Does your dad know you are gone now?" Claire asked, eyes on the road. "He was asleep when we left," Lucy said. "He was very hot. He did not look like he would wake up. But he told us about you this morning," Hazel added, "many times." Emma shifted in her seat. He kept changing his shirt. The blue one, then the gray one, then the other blue one. "The second blue one makes his eyes look like coffee," Hazel said. "Like coffee," Lucy turned to stare at her sister. "Like when you put just a little bit of cream in," Hazel said, unbothered. "Brown and kind of shiny." Emma laughed softly, a sound like breath catching on a smile. Claire thought of her own morning, the 4-hour board meeting, the men who had said her name slowly as if tasting it before questioning every chart she put up. The way she had gone home to silence and take out to a closet full of clothes she had chosen for how they would read in photographs. "Why did he talk about me?" she asked. "He has never met me." "Robert showed him your picture," Hazel said. "Robert from church," Lucy clarified. "He said you were his friend from college. He said you were nice. He said you wanted someone who did not know who you were," Emma said. Claire's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "He Googled you anyway," Hazel said. He said it would be dumb to walk into a date completely blind. Hazel, Mrs. Patel warned. He said dumb, not me, Hazel persisted. He did not show us what he found, Lucy added quickly. He just said she is very smart, very busy, and probably too fancy for me. Emma looked at the back of Claire's head. He said that last part in the mirror. A small knot formed in Claire's throat. He was singing, Hazel said. He is terrible, but he tries. He only sings when he is happy, Lucy said. That settled over the car more quietly than any scolding could have. Claire changed lanes. Rain had started again, light and fine, tapping against the windshield. Turn right on Ridge, Mrs. Patel said, then left after the park. Claire nodded and flicked on her blinker. What do you do? Emma asked suddenly. Emma, Lucy murmured. What Emma said? We are in a stranger's car. We should ask questions. She runs a company, Hazel said before Claire could answer. Dad said it was very big, with solar panels and batteries and robots. Mostly solar and batteries, Claire said. No robots. Yet. Hazel made a thoughtful sound as if she were adding robots to an invisible list. Do you like it? Emma asked. Claire considered. The practiced answer sat on her tongue, polished from years of interviews. It matters, she said instead, and it keeps me very busy. There was a lot that sentence did not say. The late nights, the flights, the constant weight between her shoulder blades, the part of her that did not quite know what to do with silence. Dad loves his work too, Lucy said. He says wood is honest. If you listen, it tells you what it wants to be. He talks to tables, Hazel said. It is weird. Emma smiled. He says weird is fine. A carpenter, Claire said. She tried out the word. Simple, solid. That is what he does now. He used to work on big buildings, Lucy said. Very tall ones with cranes. Then Mom died. Emma's fingers slipped on the paper in her lap. It crinkled. Hazel went suddenly quiet. Claire glanced at the rearview mirror. Lucy stared straight ahead. Her profile looked older in the dim light. He did not want to climb so high anymore, Lucy said, voice slower. He said one of us needed to stay on the ground. The rain on the windshield grew louder for a moment. How long has it been? Claire asked. 3 years, Emma said. And some months and days. I used to count. Then I stopped, and Lucy kept counting in her head. Lucy's mouth flattened, but she did not deny it. She smelled like vanilla, Emma said. And burnt toast, Hazel said. She was bad at breakfast too. Lucy huffed out a half laugh. It broke halfway through. Mrs. Patel shifted in her seat and looked back with tender eyes. Enough for now, she murmured. Claire swallowed. The knot in her throat pressed deeper. I am sorry, she said. Hazel's gaze met hers in the mirror. You did not do it, Hazel said. You do not have to be sorry. Claire was not sure how to answer that, so she focused on the next turn. The city thinned around them. Storefronts gave way to houses. Streetlights spaced themselves farther apart. Leaves skittered along the curb like small animals. Second left, Mrs. Patel said. Blue house with the swing. Claire slowed. A row of modest homes came into view, porches lit by single bulbs, Halloween decorations, still clinging to some fences, even though November had already arrived. There, Lucy said, pointing. The house sat halfway down the block. The siding was painted a soft, weathered blue. A wooden porch wrapped around the front with a swing that moved slightly in the breeze. In the yard, a tire hung from a rope on an old tree, swaying gently. A porch light burned warm and steady. Claire pulled into the short driveway and cut the engine. The sudden quiet made the ticking of the cooling motor sound loud. Hazel fumbled with her seatbelt. We beat you home, she whispered, as if speaking to someone inside. Shoes off at the door, Lucy reminded. He will be mad if we forget. You think he is not already mad? Mrs. Patel muttered, but without real heat. Claire stepped out into the chill. The air smelled different here. Less exhaust, more damp earth, and leaves a faint hint of something metallic from the nearby train tracks. She walked around to the other side and opened the back door. The girls hopped down one by one, coats rustling. Emma clutched the folded receipt again, as if it were a pass that allowed her back inside her own life. Thank you for the ride, Lucy said, very proper all of a sudden. You are welcome, Claire said. Come in, Hazel blurted. You have to come in, or he will think you did not get the message. We will not stay long, Mrs. Patel said to Claire, just to make sure he is all right. Claire looked up at the house, the front steps, the light spilling out from behind the curtains in the front window. Through the glass she could see shapes on the walls, crayon drawings, a wooden shelf with uneven edges. It felt like looking at a picture from a life she had never tried to imagine for herself. You are already here, Emma said softly, as if she could read the hesitation. It is only a little farther. Claire let out a breath she had not known she was holding. All right, she said. They went up the porch steps. The boards creaked under their combined weight. Hazel reached for the knob, but Lucy intercepted her. "Shoes," Lucy said. All three stopped and wrestled off their soggy sneakers without being told, lining them up neatly on a mat by the door that read in looping script, "Wipe your paws." Inside, the air was warmer and carried the thick scent of wood and something herbal. There was a narrow bench built into the wall, low enough for small legs. Hooks lined the wall above it, some high, some set at child height, holding tiny jackets and one worn denim coat that must have been Eli's. On a small side table, a lamp cast a soft pool of light over a cluster of framed photos. Claire caught glimpses as she passed. 3 babies in matching onesies. A woman laughing with her head thrown back, hair flying. A man holding a toddler on each arm, another climbing his shoulders. Her chest tightened. "Daddy is upstairs," Lucy said. She turned and without thinking slipped her small hand into Claire's. Claire glanced down. Lucy's fingers were warm and a little sticky. The grip was confident, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. "Come on," Hazel called from the bottom of the staircase. The stairs were carpeted in a neutral beige, edges slightly worn from small feet. Stickers of cartoon animals decorated the wall at kid height, clustered more heavily near the top, where someone had clearly been bored during a timeout. Claire followed them up, Lucy's hands still anchored in hers, the distance between her world and this one shrinking with each step. At the top of the stairs, a door on the right stood half closed. Light seeped out through the crack, thin and pale. Lucy stopped there and let go of Claire's hand. "He is in here," she whispered. Claire lifted her hand and tapped once on the door with her knuckles. "Daddy," Lucy called softly. "We are home." No answer. Lucy pushed the door open a little. Warm light spilled into the hallway, soft and yellow. Claire stepped in behind her, the others bunching up around her legs. The room was tidier than she expected for a single father with 3 7-year-olds. A simple wooden bed, dark frame white sheets rumpled from sleep. A dresser with a mirror that had a faint ring of fingerprints at kid height. A chair in the corner with a flannel shirt draped over it. The air smelled of fever laundry detergent and something herbal that might have been tea. Eli Walker lay on the bed, blankets twisted around his legs, one arm flung over his stomach. His t-shirt clung to his chest in damp patches. His hair was dark and too long, curling at the edges, plastered to his forehead with sweat. He blinked at the ceiling confused, then turned his head toward the sound of the door. When he saw the 4 small figures and the stranger behind them, his face shifted through several expressions at once. Startled, mortified, alarmed. "Girls," he croaked. His voice came out rough. "What are you doing? I told you to stay with Mrs. Patel. Who is—" "Oh no." His gaze landed on Claire. His eyes were not coffee, Claire thought. They were more of a warm brown shot through with amber, but she could see how a 7-year-old might reach for a drink as a reference point. "You are Claire," he said. She gave a small nod. "You must be Eli." He struggled to sit up. The effort sent a shiver through him. Lucy rushed forward and pressed a hand to his shoulder. "Dad, stop. You are still hot?" "I am so sorry," he said, ignoring that. "They were supposed to stay. I was going to call. I could not find my phone, and then I must have passed out. You were at the restaurant. You were waiting." "They did not actually walk to Marino's. Tell me they did not." "They did," Mrs. Patel said from behind Claire, voice tight. "And then I did. By taxi." Eli closed his eyes for a second. "Great," he muttered. "Perfect. First impression nailed it." Hazel edged closer to the bed. "We told her you care," she said. "We told her about the mirror and the shirts." And the singing, Emma added. "You sang." Eli opened one eye and glared weakly at the ceiling. "Traitors." Lucy climbed onto the bed and sat near his knees, back straight. "We promised you she would know. You kept saying she will think I do not care, and we know you do, so we had to tell her." "You did not have to sneak out of the house to do it," Eli said. "Alone. At night." His tone was serious, but the anger sounded blunted, wrapped in exhaustion and fear. Claire moved around the side of the bed and set the paper bag on the nightstand. Steam curled out as she loosened the top and fished out a container. The smell of chicken and herbs rose into the room. "Marino's makes a decent soup," she said. "I asked them to add extra noodles. I figured sick people always need soup." Eli stared at the container as if it were evidence of a crime. "You brought me soup from the date I missed," he said. "Technically, you did not miss it," Claire said. "It just relocated." He let out a sound that might have been a laugh if his throat were not sore. "You really did not have to come," he said. "I would have understood. You could have just told the host to send them home and blocked Robert's number." "Most people probably would have done that," Claire said. "I am not entirely sure what that says about me." "It says she is nice," Hazel said. "It says she has a car," Mrs. Patel added dryly. which we appreciate. Claire pulled a wooden chair away from the wall and set it near the bed. The chair was handmade. She noticed the joints clean. The grain matched across the back. She smoothed her dress under her, and picked up a spoon. "How long have you had the fever?" she asked Eli. He shifted against the pillows. 2 days, he said. Maybe 3. It was not that bad at first. I thought it was just a cold. Then this morning I felt like someone had parked a truck on my chest. I took something and thought I would be fine by tonight. "So fine you could not stand up," Lucy said. "Oh," he sighed. "So fine I was very wrong." Claire scooped up some soup and blew on it until steam thinned, then held it out. "If you can sit up without falling over, you can probably manage a few spoonfuls," she said. "If not, I can find a straw." He looked at the spoon, then at her faintly scandalized. "You are not feeding me on a first date," he said. "I am not sure the usual rules apply anymore," Claire said. "Open your mouth, Eli." He hesitated, then pushed himself up with a soft groan. "Girls, move down," he said. "Give Claire some space before she spills soup on my only clean sheets." They shuffled to the foot of the bed, still clothes, watching as if this were the most riveting show on television. He took the spoon from her instead and fed himself with a cautious sip. The soup must have burned a little going down because he winced and then relaxed. "It is good," he said. "I can manage." "Drink it slow," she said, "and water afterward." "You sound like you have done this before," he said, "nursing sick strangers in their beds." "Not strangers," she said. "My father, when he had his stroke. He hated hospitals, so once he came home, I ended up chasing him around with soup more times than I can count." She had not meant to say that. The memory sat close to a line she did not often cross with people she had just met. Yet in this room with its crooked lamp and scuffed dresser, the words came out anyway. Eli studied her face for a moment, spoon pausing halfway to his mouth. "How is he now?" he asked. "Alive," she said. "Mostly retired. Still thinks he runs the company." She tried to make it light. The shadow of those months, the constant fear of monitors beeping in the night, the scramble to take control of Aurora when she was 23 hovered at the edges of her vision. "You run the company," Lucy said from the foot of the bed. "Dad said you did. He said you saved it." Lucy, Eli murmured. "What she said?" "You did say that. In the kitchen, when you were reading the article on your phone." Claire felt heat touch the back of her neck. "Articles exaggerate," she said. "Probably not by much," Eli said. "Robert told me a bit. He said your father started Aurora, that you stepped up when he got sick, that the board wanted to sell and you said no." Claire lifted one shoulder. "They wanted to sell off the parts," she said. "I thought the parts were worth more together. Renewable energy was not a popular bet for them back then. It was for me." "And now you have a black SUV with heated seats," Hazel said. "And a lot of board meetings," Claire said. "Most of them longer than today's." Her mind flicked to the conference room, to the men in their dark suits with their polished phrases. The contrast to this cramped bedroom, with its mismatched lamp and feverish man, was almost enough to make her dizzy. Eli finished another spoonful of soup, then set the container down and leaned back. "What did he tell you about me?" he asked. "Robert, before all of this." Claire thought back to the text thread, to Robert's voice on the phone when he had said, "Trust me, you need someone who does not care about your stock price." "He said you were kind," she said, "that you had been through something hard and still believed people could be good, that you made beautiful things with your hands, that you had 3 daughters who would always come first." "That sounds like Robert," Eli said quietly. "He also said you had not been on a date since." She paused. "Since Amelia died," Eli said. The room went very still. The girls stiffened as if the name had weight. Emma slid closer to Hazel until their shoulders touched. Lucy's hand found the hem of the blanket and twisted it. "He said you were not sure you were allowed to want anything for yourself again," Claire said. Eli looked down at his own hands, calloused a faint white scar along the side of his thumb. "Amelia had an undiagnosed heart condition," he said. His voice had lost its joking edge. "She went to the grocery store on a Saturday. She called me from the baking aisle to ask if I wanted chocolate chip muffins or blueberry. She was laughing. 10 minutes later, someone else answered her phone when I called back." Emma's eyes shimmered. Hazel swallowed. Lucy stared at him as if waiting for him to crack. "She was 28, he said. Healthy. At least we thought so. She fell in front of the freezer section and did not get back up. By the time I reached the hospital, it was already over." Claire felt the air in her lungs catch. Her own memory of a phone call came rushing back. A sheriff on the line, the words "boating accident," the taste of metal in her mouth. "The girls were 4, Eli said. They remember pieces, smells, songs, the way she burned toast. I remember all of it. For a long time, I could not imagine bringing anyone else into their lives. It felt like replacing her. It felt wrong. Lucy spoke up, voice small but firm. He did not laugh for a long time, she said. He pretended to, but he did not. I learned how to make braids from videos on the internet, Eli said, eyes still on his hands. I learned to pack lunches and sew buttons and build beds with rails so no one would fall out. I quit the high-rise jobs. I started making furniture in the garage so I could be here at dinner. That felt like enough. Then Robert started talking about this friend of his who forgot to eat because she was too busy saving the world. I do not save the world, Claire said softly. You are trying, Eli said. That counts. Her throat tightened again. She reached for the soup container just to have something in her hands. You should eat a little more, she said. Then drink water, then sleep. He did not argue this time. He ate what she offered and finished half a glass of water from the nightstand. His eyes drooped between swallows. Mrs. Patel checked the clock on the wall. It is late, she said. Girls, you can say good night. Then we let him rest. They protested without much force. One by one, they climbed up to kiss his cheek. Do not be mad, Hazel said, hovering. We are sorry, Emma whispered. We just did not want you to be sad alone, Lucy said. He wrapped an arm around all three as best he could. We will talk about it tomorrow, he said, with more brain cells. I love you. They chorused it back and slid off the bed. Mrs. Patel herded them toward the door. On the way out, Hazel paused beside Claire. Do not let him pretend he is fine when he is not, she said. I am familiar with that problem, Claire said. I will do my best. The girls disappeared into the hall, their footsteps fading toward what must have been their rooms. Mrs. Patel followed, pulling the door almost closed behind her to give them privacy. Claire stood and set the empty container aside. The room felt quieter without the girls, though she could still hear muffled voices down the hall. Eli lay back, eyes half open. Thank you for coming, he said, for not writing us off as a circus. I like circuses, Claire said. There is always something worth watching. A corner of his mouth lifted. You have had a long day, he said. You do not have to stay. I know, she said. She picked up the glass, carried it into the small bathroom to refill it from the tap, and set it back on the nightstand within easy reach. She found a bottle of fever reducer on the dresser, checked the label, then shook out the correct dose and handed it over. You are very bossy, he said, swallowing the pills. So I am told, she said. She moved to the door and paused, her hand on the frame. The light from the hallway outlined the threshold, a thin band between his world and hers. On the nightstand lay a notepad and pen, probably for grocery lists. She picked them up, tore off a corner sheet, and wrote in small, neat letters. Get some rest. CEO's orders. See. She set the note beside the empty soup container. When she looked up, Eli was already drifting, lashes lowering, breathing evening out. The fever had not broken yet, but his face looked less strained. Claire watched him for one breath longer than was strictly necessary. Then she slipped out into the hall and pulled the door almost closed behind her, leaving a narrow gap of light in the frame. Light pressed against the edges of the curtains when Eli opened his eyes. For a second, he did not know where he was. The ceiling came into focus, the familiar hairline crack near the light fixture, the faint swirl where one of the girls had tried to stick a glow in the dark star years ago. His body felt heavy and oddly light, at the same time as if someone had drained all the sand out of him and forgotten to put strength back in. His skin was damp but cooler. The ache behind his eyes had settled into something dull instead of sharp. He turned his head and saw the nightstand. Empty soup container, glass with a few inches of water left, a small square of paper with neat writing. Get some rest. CEO's orders. See. For a moment, he wondered if the fever had cooked part of his brain and invented last night out of the ragged edges of his imagination. Then he recognized the pen from the kitchen drawer, the precise handwriting that looked nothing like his own uneven scrawl. He pressed the base of his palm against his eyes and groaned softly. The girls, the restaurant, the stranger from the internet sitting beside his bed, feeding him spoonfuls of chicken noodle. Mortification hit first hot and bright, then something else quieter and harder to name. Footsteps padded down the hall. Before he could compose himself, his bedroom door creaked open, and three blonde heads appeared at varying heights. He is alive, Hazel announced. Barely, Eli said. His voice still rasped, but it hurt less. Come here. They rushed in and climbed onto the bed with practiced ease, knees digging into the mattress. Emma curled against his side. Hazel perched near his feet. Lucy sat closest to his shoulder, eyes searching his face. You look better, she said, wary hope in her tone. I feel less like roadkill, he said. Not 100%, but better. Roadkill is gross, Hazel said. You did not look that bad. Thanks, Eli said. That is reassuring. He let his arm fall around Emma, fingers brushing the ends of her hair. They smelled faintly of strawberry shampoo and something sugary, probably cereal. "We need to talk about last night," he said. All three of them shifted at the same time as if someone had pulled a string. Emma tucked her chin down. Hazel picked at a loose thread on the blanket. Lucy looked him straight in the eye. "We know," she said. "We are sorry," Emma said quickly. "We just wanted to help," Hazel added. Eli took a slow breath. Anger pulsed somewhere under his ribs, but it tangled with fear and love and gratitude until he could not pick apart which was which. "You left the house without telling anyone," he said. "In the dark. You walked 6 blocks along streets with cars and strangers. Anything could have happened." "Nothing did happen," Hazel said. "We stayed together. We looked both ways." "That is not the point," Eli said. He kept his voice level. "The point is that you cannot decide to disappear when the grown-up watching you is not looking." Mrs. Patel was terrified. "I was terrified when I woke up and found you gone. Do you understand how dangerous that was?" They were quiet. Lucy's mouth pressed into a line. Emma's eyes filled with water, and she blinked hard. Hazel stopped picking at the blanket and twisted a corner of it instead. "We did not want you to be scared," Emma said. "We left a note." "The note did not help when you were not here," Eli said. He pushed himself up against the headboard. The movement left him a little breathless, but he wanted to be sitting when he said what came next. "When I tell you to stay with someone, I need to know you will stay," he said. "Even if you do not like it, even if you think you have a better idea, I need to be able to trust that you will be where you are supposed to be." "Even if you are sad?" Hazel asked. Her voice was smaller than usual. Eli looked at her. Hazel rarely let anything rattle her. Seeing uncertainty creep into her eyes made his chest tighten. "Especially then," he said. "If something happened to you because you were trying to take care of me, I do not know how I would live with that." Emma wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "We really are sorry," she whispered. Lucy's hands bunched in the blanket. "You were singing in the shower," she said. "You tried on 3 shirts and you hated all of them. You were nervous, but you were happy. We have not seen you like that in a long time." Eli closed his eyes for a second. "We thought if she came and you were not there, you would be sad all over again," Lucy said. "Like when people stopped coming after Mom. So, we decided to fix it." Eli opened his eyes and looked at her. At the determination in her jaw, the fear in her shoulders, the way she had tried to carry more weight than belonged on a 7-year-old. "I appreciate that you care about my happiness," he said carefully. "I really do. But I am the parent. It is my job to protect you. Your job is not to sneak out and fix my life." "Can we not take care of you at all?" Emma asked. "That feels bad too." He thought of all the times they had made him laugh when it hurt to get out of bed. The times they had climbed onto his lap with books, or put small hands on his cheeks and said, "Look at me, Dad, it is okay." The way their presence alone sometimes kept him from falling into dark places. "You can take care of me with hugs," he said, "with drawings, with telling me the truth when I pretend I am fine. You can take care of me by following the rules so my heart does not try to climb out of my chest every time I think about what could have happened." Hazel whispered, "No more secret missions." "Exactly," he said. "No more secret missions. If you are worried about something, you come talk to me. If you want to help, we figure out how, together. Deal?" They hesitated, then nodded almost in unison. "Deal," Lucy said. "Does this mean the grounding is shorter?" Hazel asked. "You are still grounded," Eli said. "We will discuss the details when my head does not feel like a balloon. There will be less television. There will definitely be earlier bedtimes." Hazel groaned. Emma looked resigned. Lucy accepted it with a small tilt of her head, already calculating he could tell what she could do with extra reading time. He pulled them tighter against him. "I love you," he said. "Nothing changes that, not even very bad choices." They squeezed him back. "Do you love Claire?" Hazel asked, just as he was relaxing. He choked. "I met her last night," he said. "I was sweaty and half-conscious. I am not sure love is the word you are looking for." "You liked her," Lucy said. "Your ears went red when she came in." "Your ears went red when Mrs. Turner asked about the parent-teacher conference too," Hazel pointed out. "Maybe you love Mrs. Turner," Hazel Eli said. Emma smiled, the first real smile of the morning. "She was nice," she said. "Claire." She did not yell. She brought soup. She knew things about medicine. "She has a very fancy car," Hazel added, "and heated seats. And she did not get mad when I said it looks like a spaceship." Lucy rested her chin on his knee. "She did not leave when she could have," she said. "That seems important." He thought about Claire's face in the half-light, the way she had listened when he talked about Amelia, the steady way she had moved around the room, as if caring for a sick stranger were something she did every day. "Yeah," he said softly, "it is." By the time they filtered out to the kitchen, his phone had finally surfaced face down on the bathroom counter, where he must have dropped it. The screen showed 12 missed calls from Mrs. Patel and one new text from an unknown number. "Hi, Eli. This is Claire, Rob. This is Claire. Just wanted to make sure you are still among the living this morning." He stared at the words for a long second. Then he typed deleted and typed again. Alive, slightly less terrifying to look at. Deeply embarrassed. The girls are grounded until they are 40. Thank you for last night, for being kind to them. And to me. He hit send before he could second-guess himself. The reply came faster than he expected. They are wonderful. You are allowed to be less embarrassed. I have had worse evenings. None with soup involved, though. Another bubble appeared. If you are feeling better. By next weekend, would you still be open to that date? Somewhere that does not require your children as messengers. Eli felt a slow smile start at the back of his mouth and move forward. Next weekend should work, assuming my immune system cooperates. Good, she wrote. In the meantime, I am coming by this afternoon with more soup. Call it professional curiosity. I want to see what you look like without the near-death filter. You really do not have to do that, he wrote. I know, she answered. 3:00. He set the phone down and closed his eyes for a moment, overwhelmed in a completely different way now. In the kitchen, cereal bowls clinked. Someone argued over the last clean spoon. The television clicked on and then off again, likely under Mrs. Patel's supervision. He swung his legs over the side of the bed and sat there until the room stopped swaying, then made his way to the bathroom to wash his face. The cold water felt good against his skin. He brushed his teeth twice as if that could erase the memory of fever breath, and pulled on a clean t-shirt and sweatpants. By the time he shuffled downstairs, the house smelled like toast and cinnamon. The girls sat at the table, crumbs around their plates, cartons of juice sweating rings onto the wood. You should not be up, Mrs. Patel said, hands on her hips, though her eyes softened when she saw the color back in his face. I cannot stay in bed all day, he said. I have to at least pretend to be the adult in this house. Hazel popped an orange slice into her mouth. Claire is coming back, she announced. Your hair looks weird. You should fix it. Do not start, he said, running a hand through his hair anyway. Lucy looked at the clock on the stove. It is only 9, she said. That is so many hours. You will survive, Eli said. You are grounded. You will survive boredom. They did, though, judging by the number of times they asked when it would be 3:00 barely. He dozed on the couch for a while, the television murmuring in the background. He woke to the sound of a vacuum somewhere in the house and distant arguing over colored markers. At 2:55, Hazel stationed herself at the front window. At 3:02, she said she will be late. At 3:05, Lucy said we will stop staring. They lasted until 3 exactly. Headlights slid into the driveway. A familiar black SUV came to a stop. Hazel exploded away from the window. She came, she yelled. Inside, voices Mrs. Patel called from the kitchen. The front doorbell rang. The girls beat Eli to the entryway. He got there in time to hear Hazel fling the door open and shout, "You are here," directly into Claire's face. Claire stood on the porch, cheeks pink from the cold hair loose around her shoulders. The blue dress from the night before was gone. In its place were jeans, a soft gray sweater, and boots with sensible soles for November sidewalks. She held a brown paper bag in one arm and something flat and rectangular under the other. Good afternoon, she said, laughing, as Hazel attached herself to her waist. I brought provisions. Eli rested a hand on the doorframe, using it for balance more than theatrics. The chill from outside met the warmth from inside right where he stood. You really came, he said. I told you I would, she said, and I am very reliable. Occupational hazard. Emma peered at the top of the bag. What is it, she asked. Chicken soup, Claire said. From a deli near my place that swears theirs cures everything. Also something for after soup. She held up the rectangular box. Bright letters spelled out the name of a board game. The picture on the front showed people wearing cards on their foreheads and laughing. Hazel gasped. A game where you wear your card as a hat, she said. This is genius. We thought so, Claire said. Eli stepped back to let them in. The 3 girls swarmed around Claire like a small moving storm, tugging at her sleeve, asking questions all at once. He watched for a moment, leaning on the door, feeling the warmth of the house on his back and the bite of the November air on his face. Claire moved easily among the chaos, stepping over a backpack, dodging a shoe, laughing when Hazel tried to take the game out of her hands before she even reached the coffee table. It occurred to him, as he closed the door against the cold, that the line between his world and hers did not feel as solid as it had once seemed. Rosa's on Belmont was not the kind of place that showed up in glossy magazines. The sign out front was painted by hand in fading red. The windows were steamed around the edges from the warmth inside. Someone had taped a child's crayon drawing of a pizza slice to the glass near the door, and nobody had bothered to take it down. Eli stood on the sidewalk for a moment, watching his breath cloud and disappear in the November air. His nerves felt like they had the volume turned up. It had been a week since Claire had stood in his living room with a paper bag of soup and a board game, since she had sat cross-legged on his rug with 3 girls pressed close on either side, while they tried to guess the pictures on their own foreheads. They had texted every day after that. Little things. How is the fever? How is the board game rematch going? Do your daughters always cheat this much at cards? He had forgotten how fast familiarity could grow in all the small, ordinary exchanges. He tugged at the cuff of his shirt. Lucy had declared this one the winner after a very serious consultation in front of his closet. Dark blue, no stains, no missing buttons. Hazel had vetoed his first choice of shoes and made him polish another pair. Emma had asked what he was most scared of. Burping in the middle of a sentence he had said. Lying, she had corrected gently. He had not answered that one. The door to Rosa's opened, and a couple stepped out laughing, arms linked. Warmth and garlic and tomato drifted into the cold night. Claire stood near the entrance looking down the street as if she had been scanning for him. She had her coat open, one hand in the pocket, the other holding her phone. When she lifted her head and saw him, her shoulders relaxed by an inch. "You are vertical," she said. "As promised," he said. "No fever, no collapsing, just a mild risk of saying something stupid." "That is my favorite kind of risk," she said. She wore a simple dress the color of sand that fell just past her knees, tights and a pair of boots made more for walking than for boardrooms. Her hair was down a soft wave around her shoulders that caught the light from the restaurant window. "You look nice," he said, then winced a little. "That sounded more surprised than I meant it to." She smiled. "I will take it anyway." He pulled the door open. The warmth rolled over them at once, along with the clatter of plates and the murmur of conversation. The host looked up from polishing a stack of glasses and smiled in recognition at Claire. "Back again already," he said. "Table for 2 this time." "Yes, Marco," she said. "The little tornadoes stayed home." Marco grinned at Eli as if he knew exactly which tornadoes she meant, then led them to a small table near the back. The walls were painted a deep worn red. Shelves held bottles of wine with handwritten labels. A chalkboard listed specials in looping script. They slid into their chairs. A candle flickered between them in a short glass, making the silverware gleam. "Do you come here often?" Eli asked. "Enough that Marco no longer offers me the kids' menu," she said. "It is close to my building. The food is good. They pretend not to recognize people even when they do. It feels private." "That sounds nice," he said. "Privacy is in short supply when your children tell your blind date everything about your life." The memory of 3 red jackets in a fancy lobby flashed between them. They both laughed. The waiter brought water. Steam lifted from a nearby table, where a bowl of pasta had just arrived, curling upward and disappearing. Eli watched it for a second, something in his chest loosening at the ordinariness of it. They ordered without much fuss. He chose spaghetti with meatballs because it felt honest. She chose gnocchi with pesto and a glass of red wine. He hesitated, then ordered a beer. When the waiter left, there was a small pause, not uncomfortable, but charged with possibility. "How is the workshop?" she asked. "Are you back to making things out of wood instead of out of fever dreams?" He smiled. "I put in a few hours today," he said. "Nothing too heavy. Sanding, staring at boards until they tell me what they want to be." "Do they always tell you?" she asked. "Eventually," he said. "Sometimes I try to force it. Those pieces never turn out right. Wood remembers when you try to make it something it is not." She traced the rim of her water glass with her finger. "Robert said you used to work on high-rise sites," she said. "Steel and concrete instead of oak and maple." "I did," he said. "Long hours, good money, terrible schedule for a family. I like the feeling of building something that big. You can see it from miles away. It looks important." "What changed?" she asked, though she knew part of the answer. "After Amelia," he said quietly, "I could not make myself climb 20 stories of scaffolding anymore. The idea of leaving for a site and not coming home made my skin crawl. So I took the severance, bought some tools, and asked my uncle to let me use his garage for a while. Turned out I like making small things. You can touch more than big ones you look at from far away." "It is still building," she said, "just different scale." He took a sip of water. "What about you?" he asked. "Do you remember the moment you decided you were going to run Aurora instead of whatever else someone your age was doing at the time?" She looked down, considering. The candlelight caught the line of her throat. "I was 12 when my mother died," she said. Boat flipped in a storm. Wrong place, wrong time. After that, my father poured everything into the company. He stopped talking about anything that was not a quarterly report or a new contract. Aurora became the thing he could control, when life had proven it could not be controlled at all. Eli listened, elbows on the table, hands loosely clasped. I grew up in hallways outside meeting rooms, she said. I knew what EBITD meant before I could drive. When he had his stroke, Aurora was in trouble. Bad decisions, bad timing. The board wanted to sell it in pieces to whoever would pay. It felt like losing him twice. So you walked in and told them no, Eli said. I walked in and showed them a plan, she said. I had been sketching it in my head for years anyway. Shift the focus, invest in storage build for the future instead of squeezing the present. They laughed. I did it anyway. And now your name is on the articles about saving the company, he said. And on the emails that arrive at 3 in the morning when someone does not like a decision, she said. It takes both, the praise and the knives. Their food arrived, plates warm in the waiter's hands. The smell of basil and garlic and simmered tomatoes filled the small space between them. Steam rose in little curls and then disappeared. Eli twirled spaghetti onto his fork. Claire cut into a soft dumpling, green sauce clinging to the edges. How do you turn it off? He asked. The part of your brain that is always planning the next quarter, the next expansion, the next fire to put out. I am sitting in front of you, she said. That counts as trying. He smiled. Fair point. What about you? She asked. Do you ever stop thinking about splinters and measurements and who is going to fall out of which bunk bed? Not really, he said. There is always someone growing out of something, or needing a new shelf, or asking why we cannot build a treehouse that goes all the way to the clouds. He twisted his fork again. I like it though, he said. I like that my work and my life are tangled. The sawdust follows me into the kitchen. The girls bring glitter into the workshop. Both places are a mess. It feels honest. She watched him for a moment. My life is very compartmentalized, she said. Office, car, penthouse, repeat. I can go days without touching anything that is not made of glass or metal. Wood and glitter sound complicated. Also, good. Glitter is never just glitter, he said solemnly. It is an invasive species. She laughed, sudden and genuine. The sound drew a glance from the couple at the next table. You know they adore you, she said. The girls. It is written on their faces every time they say your name. Most days I am just the guy saying no to extra television, he said. But I am glad they let it show. They adore you too, you know. After you left Sunday, Hazel told Mrs. Patel that you have main character energy. Claire blinked. Is that a good thing? In Hazel language, yes, he said. Although she may try to appoint you as the boss of the universe. Be warned. I will add it to my job description, she said. He took a bite of pasta, then set his fork down. Can I admit something, he asked. You can try, she said. When Robert first mentioned you, he said, I said no. I like my small life. I did not want to drag someone in just to have them decide it is too much. He sent me your picture anyway. Then I looked you up. He glanced up, rueful. There is an entire page about you on the internet, he said, with charts. It lists your net worth. It mentions a speech you gave at the United Nations. I almost canceled 3 times. She stared at him, half horrified, half amused. I thought we agreed we would not discuss that page, she said. It is very informative, he said. It made me extremely aware that I build tables in a backyard workshop and have unpaid interns who are 7 years old. You know what that page does not say, she asked. What he said. That yesterday I ate cold leftovers over the sink because I was too tired to find a plate, she said. That sometimes I pretend to be on a call in the elevator so strangers will not talk to me. That I have been on more dates in the last 5 years where someone asked about my stock options than about my favorite book. What is your favorite book? He asked instinctively before he could stop himself. She blinked, then laughed softly. I am not sure anymore, she said. The last few years it has been contracts. Ask me again in a month. Deal, he said. She wiped a dot of sauce from her plate with a piece of bread. Robert told me you had not dated since Amelia, she said. That you were not sure if you were allowed. He nodded once. It is strange, he said. Grief makes time weird. I can still hear her laugh if I think about it hard enough. For a long time, the idea of sitting across from someone else laughing at something new felt like betrayal. Then the girls started asking if I would be alone forever. They said it in a completely practical way, like they were asking if we would always drive the same car. He rubbed his thumb along the knuckle of his other hand. I realized I had built my whole life around making sure they were not swallowed by that loss, he said. I forgot that maybe they did not want me swallowed by it either. Claire's chest ached in a place that had nothing to do with work. I understand the time thing, she said. Sometimes it still feels like my mother is on another trip. Sometimes it feels like she only ever existed in the pictures in my father's office. Both can be true on the same day. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. The restaurant buzzed around them soft and low. The candle burned shorter in its glass. The waiter appeared to clear plates and offer dessert. They hesitated for only a second before agreeing to share tiramisu. When it came, the plate was dusted with cocoa, 2 spoons resting on the edge. The first bite melted on Claire's tongue, coffee and cream and cake. "This is almost dangerously good," she said. Almost, he agreed. They traded small stories as they finished it. The time Hazel tried to cut her own hair with safety scissors. The time Claire accidentally deleted a presentation 10 minutes before a crucial meeting and had to improvise with a whiteboard. Books Emma liked. How Lucy had organized their pantry by cereal brand. By the time the last bite was gone, the restaurant had grown quieter. Chairs scraped softly as people left. A server blew out candles at empty tables. Marco brought the check with an apologetic smile. "We love you," he told Claire, "but we have to sleep sometime." They paid and stood putting on coats. The air outside met them with a cool kiss on the face. The street had emptied while they were inside. A few cars passed headlights washing over brick facades. Somewhere a dog barked. They walked slowly toward the corner, where their paths would split. Her building rose a block away, tall glass catching the city lights. His truck waited farther down the street. "This was nice," Claire said. "That sounds too small, but it was." "It did not feel small," he said. "It felt easy." She snorted softly. "My life is not generally accused of being easy." "Mine is not either," he said. 3 daughters, a tiny business, a house that always needs fixing. It is a circus some days. "I like circuses," she said again. They stopped near a streetlight. The glow washed over them, turning their breath into pale smoke. "I should warn you," he said. "Real life with me includes glitter, in places glitter should never be, school projects that require last-minute trips to the craft store, and very loud Saturday mornings. Real life with me includes board meetings, late flights, and random calls from journalists," she said. "I cannot promise I will never bring work home. I can promise I will try not to let it swallow everything." He looked at her, really looked, and saw the woman behind the articles. The faint crease between her brows that had nothing to do with age and everything to do with thinking too hard. The way her shoulders had lowered over the course of the evening, the hint of vulnerability around her eyes now. "I do not want a polished version," he said. "I like the one who eats over the sink." She laughed, surprised. He swallowed once. "Can I kiss you?" he asked. His voice came out softer than he intended. She stepped a fraction closer, the corner of her mouth tilted. "I thought you would never ask," she said. He reached up, gave her enough time to pull away, and when she did not, he leaned in. The kiss was unhurried and gentle, the kind that settled rather than startled. Her lips were warm. She smelled faintly of wine and sugar and whatever perfume she had put on that morning. His hand found the curve of her jaw. For a moment, the noise of the city blurred. They parted slowly. Her eyes stayed closed for a heartbeat, then opened. "Well," she said, "that settles something." What he asked. "That I am glad 3 small outlaws walked into a restaurant last Friday," she said. He smiled. "Me too," he said. They stood there a moment longer in the pool of light, then stepped back. "Text me when you get home," she said. "So I know you did not fall asleep at a stoplight." "Yes, boss," he said. She shook her head, amused, and walked toward her building. He watched until the glass doors opened for her and closed again. The lobby light framed her briefly, then she disappeared from view. Only then did he turn toward his truck, hand brushing his lips as if to check that the evening had really happened. For a while after, Rosa's life stretched out in small, distinct scenes. Wednesdays became Claire nights almost by accident. The first one happened because a meeting ended earlier than expected, and she found herself staring at the clock on her office wall at 6:30 instead of 9. The city glowed beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, a grid of yellow and white. Her inbox still held a row of flagged emails. Her assistant had left a neat stack of documents on the corner of her desk. She shut her laptop. The act felt almost reckless. On her way out of the building, she stopped at a Thai place 2 blocks away that knew her as the woman who liked her, curry extra spicy and her rice half portioned. This time, she added 3 more entrees, spring rolls, and a dessert that looked ridiculous and involved mango and sticky rice. She texted Eli from the sidewalk, breath clouding in the cool air. "Are you home? And if so, how do you feel about bribery in the form of noodles?" The answer came a minute later. "We are home. We have already committed to breakfast for dinner, but I suspect my vote will be overruled if I tell them what you just wrote." She smiled at the screen and typed back. On my way. Tell them democracy is alive and well." When she knocked on the blue house door, Hazel flung it open so fast the porch light rocked on its hook. "Claire," she cried, "you smell like food." "That is because I came armed," Claire said, lifting the bags. Hazel inhaled dramatically. "That is not pancakes." "Pancakes can be dessert," Lucy said, already reaching for one of the bags. Emma appeared behind them, hair a little damp from a bath, wearing flannel pajamas with tiny foxes printed on them. "We set the table," she said. "You did," Claire said, looking past them. The dining area, tucked between the small kitchen and the living room, held a battered wooden table with 4 chairs and a mismatched bench, all clearly made by the same hands. Plates were already set out, forks, a little crooked napkins, folded into shapes that resembled cranes if one squinted. Eli stood by the stove, spatula in hand, a plate of slightly browning pancakes waiting. "You did not have to bring food," he said. "I did not have to," she said. "I wanted to." Hazel sniffed again. "Is that bribery?" she asked. "Yes," Claire said, "for your cooperation in trying new vegetables." The girls groaned in unison. Eli laughed. They crammed around the table, the Thai takeout containers spreading like a small map between them. Steam curled up from the curry, mixing with the sweet smell of syrup. The sound of chopsticks tapping and forks scraping and overlapping voices filled the room. Claire's leather satchel, with its laptop and stack of papers, sat untouched on the bench behind her. Every time her hand started to drift toward it, the sight of a small elbow or a streak of peanut sauce pulled her back. "Try the green beans," she told Hazel, handing over a spoonful. "They are not actually poisonous." Hazel eyed them with suspicion, then took one and put it in her mouth. She chewed, swallowed, and squinted. "They are crunchy," she said. "That is usually a plus," Claire said. "They are acceptable," Hazel announced, which was as good as a victory. After dinner, the pancakes were cut into triangles and dipped in leftover mango sauce. Claire let Hazel smear a line of syrup on the back of her hand, like war paint before they cleaned the table together. It went like that on other Wednesdays. Some nights she brought food, some nights she arrived empty-handed and ended up stirring tomato sauce on the stove while Eli wiped glitter off the table, and the girls argued about math homework. On Saturdays she came earlier. One weekend it was for Lucy's piano recital at the community center. The auditorium smelled faintly of floor polish and nervous parents. Folding chairs creaked under shifting weight. Children in small, stiff clothes wandered up and down the aisles. Claire found Eli and the girls in the third row. Lucy's hair was pinned back with a barrette, her feet in shoes polished within an inch of their lives. Hazel wore a dress with a skirt that twirled when she spun. Emma had a book tucked under one arm. "You came," Lucy said, trying to sound casual and failing. Her eyes were bright. "I would not miss it," Claire said. She took the empty seat beside Eli. Their shoulders brushed. He passed her a program, the paper warm from his hand. "They put her as number 7, he said. "She counted 3 times to make sure it is not unlucky." Claire scanned the list of names until she found Lucy Walker in neat black print. There was a row of kids in matching vests near the front, whispering too loudly. A baby cried somewhere in the back. A boy in the second row of performers picked at the bow tie around his neck. When it was Lucy's turn, she walked to the piano, Sene with measured steps back straight. She adjusted the bench without any help, just like she had practiced in the living room, then placed her hands on the keys. The first notes were a little stiff, then something in her arms relaxed and the melody smoothed out. Claire watched her fingers small and sure. She watched Eli from the corner of her eye, too, the way his jaw clenched when Lucy hesitated for half a beat, the way it loosened when she recovered. When the piece ended, there was a beat of silence and then the polite applause of strangers. The 3 people in the third row clapped louder. Lucy turned, scanned the crowd, and found them. For a second, her face opened completely. Pride, relief, and something like awe crossed it quick as light, before she remembered to walk calmly back to her seat. "That was beautiful," Claire said later, when Lucy rushed into the lobby and flung herself at them. "I missed one note," Lucy said, muffled against Claire's sweater. "One note does not change the whole song," Eli said. Claire caught his eye. He looked like he might cry and laugh at the same time. Another Saturday, Hazel took over Claire's afternoon. "I need help with my science project," Hazel announced as soon as Claire walked through the door. "It is due next Friday. We are building a model of renewable energy. Dad says you know about that." "Your timing is suspiciously perfect," Claire said. Hazel spread poster board and markers and a collection of recyclables on the floor. Eli hovered, looking torn between helping and letting Hazel direct. Claire knelt on the rug knees, pressing into the fibers. "What do you know already?" she asked. "That the sun is powerful," Hazel said. "And that wind is powerful, and that the earth is tired." "That is not a bad starting point," Claire said. She pulled her phone out and after a quick search found photos of some of Aurora's solar installations that were already public. Fields of panels in bright sun, rooftops lined with glass. She showed Hazel, who studied the pictures with a seriousness that made Claire's chest ache. "We could build a tiny farm," Hazel said, "with little panels. Lucy get the cardboard, Emma find all the blue markers." They crafted for hours. Cardboard cut and taped foil smoothed over scraps to mimic reflective surfaces, cotton balls pulled apart for clouds. Claire called one of her engineers and asked if they had any sample cells or tiny demo pieces that were safe for kids to touch. He laughed through the phone, promised to send something with a courier on Monday, and asked a little too casually if she was volunteering at a school now. "Something like that," she said. Eli watched from the couch, pretending to read. Every time he turned a page, Claire could feel his eyes flick their way. At one point, Hazel stood up, hands on her hips, glitter stuck to her forehead. "If the sun hits here," she said, pointing at a little square she had drawn, "then the power goes there and into the house. So, even when it is dark, the lights can stay on." "That is the idea," Claire said. "It is like saving light for later," Emma said. Claire sat back on her heels, fingers sticky with glue, and thought that might be the nicest description of her work anyone had ever given. Not every moment was big. Some were quiet in a way her life had not been for a long time. There were evenings when Emma would simply carry her book to the couch and sit near Claire without saying anything, just close enough that their shoulders touched. Claire would pick up something to read, herself a report or a novel she kept meaning to finish. Eventually, the report would slide to the coffee table, and she would lean back and listen to the sound of pages turning. "Do you ever skip to the end?" Emma asked once, eyes on the printed words. "I used to," Claire said. "Now I try not to." "Why?" Emma asked. "Because I like being surprised," Claire said, "even when it is scary." Emma nodded slowly as if filing that away. There were nights in the workshop, too. The first time, Claire only meant to peek in. She had followed the smell of cut wood out the back door while the girls finished a movie with Mrs. Patel. The air outside held a sharper cold. The sky above the small yard was a deep blue edging toward black. Light spilled from a large window in the detached garage. Sawdust dusted the glass on the inside, blurring the view like frost. She opened the side door and stepped in. The space was warmer than she expected, a heater humming in one corner. The scent of pine and stain was thick, tangible. Boards leaned against one wall. Half-finished pieces sat on sawhorses, clamps holding joints while glue dried. Eli stood at a workbench, sleeves pushed up, hands steady, as he ran sandpaper along the edge of a table leg. Fine dust floated in the air, catching the light like a different kind of glitter. He looked up when he heard the door and smiled. "Careful," he said. "You are about to be coated in sawdust." She glanced down at her wool coat, then stepped fully inside. "It will improve the design," she said. He handed her a simple mask, the kind he used when sanding, and she looped it over her ears. "Want to help?" he asked. "Yes," she said, surprising herself with how quickly it came out. He showed her how to move the sandpaper with the grain, how to feel with her fingertips for rough spots. "Wood remembers pressure," he said. "If you push too hard in one spot, you will see it later, even if you think you smoothed it out." She thought about all the times she had pushed too hard in meetings, in negotiations on herself. The idea that something could hold marks like that without breaking felt both obvious and new. Dust collected on her sleeves. A stripe appeared on her cheek when she brushed hair out of her eyes. She caught sight of herself in the reflection of a small window and almost laughed. "You look like you lost a fight with a tree," Eli said. "I think the tree won," she said. When they left the workshop, tiny grains of sawdust clung to her sweater. Inside the living room, a faint trail of old glitter still shone in the fibers of the rug from Hazel's last project. The two sparkled together when the lamplight hit them. At some point, Claire realized that she had started carrying a different key on her ring. Her penthouse key, sleek and new, still sat there. So did the card for Aurora's offices. But next to them was a plain brass key with a small blue plastic cover, smudged where Hazel had held it up, and said, "This one is for the back door, so you do not have to knock like a stranger." Her own apartment changed in small ways too. One evening she dropped her bag on the marble counter, opened her fridge, and stared at the rows of neat containers. Yogurt she had forgotten, pre-cut vegetables, 3 kinds of sparkling water. Everything was organized by a cleaning service she paid too much for and saw too rarely. On her coffee table lay a handmade card brought home in her purse by accident. Purple marker spelled out "Thank you, Claire" in letters that leaned into each other. A few flecks of glitter clung to the paper. She turned the card over in her hands, then set it carefully on the shelf by the door. On nights when she could not get away from the office, she found herself reaching for her phone more often than before. a picture from Eli of Lucy practicing scales, a blurry video of Hazel doing a cartwheel that ended in a pile of limbs and laughing, a quiet snap from Emma of a book open on her lap, a mug of hot chocolate beside her. The messages came with no pressure attached, no demands, just windows into a life that felt increasingly less like something she visited and more like something she had begun to inhabit. In the boardroom, she still faced charts and questions and the subtle barbs of people who did not like being told no by a woman 10 years younger than them. On flights, she still reviewed contracts and wrote notes in margins until the lights dimmed. But somewhere between morning briefings and evening emails, between contract clauses and quarterly forecasts, there were also piano recitals and science projects and spilled juice on jeans she used to baby. There were also doors that opened onto a blue house, a porch swing that creaked, and 3 voices that yelled her name, as if it mattered in a way that had nothing to do with the markets. The Tokyo problem started on a Tuesday. Claire sat at the head of the long glass table in Aurora's main boardroom, a wall of screens glowing behind her. Numbers climbed and fell in tidy graphs. A map of Asia pulsed with colored pins. The air had that faint, chilled smell of filtered air and expensive suits. On the central screen, a chart dipped a little too sharply. 17% projected drop in revenue if they walk, someone said. That is the conservative model. The Tokyo team had dialed in hours earlier. Their faces neatly framed in rectangles were gone now. The call had ended with polite bows and careful words that meant something closer to, "We are not sure we trust you anymore." "They have 3 other offers," one of the board members said. "They do not need us. You are the one who convinced them to sign on in the first place. You will have to convince them to stay." Claire kept her hands folded on the table to hide the way her knuckles had gone white. "Send me the full case file," she said. "I want all the updates from their regulators, all the chatter from the press, any whisper you have heard from partners." "You will go in person, of course," another board member said. He adjusted his cufflinks as if this was the part that mattered. She looked at the dates on the calendar in her head. The holidays coming in the school schedule she had started to pay attention to. A bright yellow sticky note on her own fridge that read, "Hazel's class presentation," in crooked letters because Hazel had insisted on writing it herself. Lucy's piano teacher had mentioned a winter recital. Emma had handed Claire a list of books she wanted to talk about when you have thinking time. "How long?" Claire asked. "A week," the CFO said. "2," the head of Asia operations said. "If you want to fix this, you will need to be there for the entire negotiation cycle." "It will not be a vacation," someone else added. "This is make or break," as if she ever treated trips for the company as vacations. Claire stared at the chart, at the line that should have been flat and simply was not. "I can leave Thursday," she said. "I want the brief on my desk by tonight." "You will not regret it," the head of Asia operations said. Claire was not sure regret worked that way. The meeting droned on, but a part of her brain had already stepped away. Past the glass walls, down the elevator, out through the spinning doors, into the bright chill of the city. Into a car headed north, toward a blue house with a porch swing and a tire on a rope. Toward 3 small voices that would not understand why she had to cross an ocean when they needed help with homework. Afterward, in her own office, she stood by the window and pressed her forehead briefly against the cool glass. The city stretched below a grid of light and noise, detached and beautiful. On her desk, her phone buzzed. "Hazel, look what we did." A photo popped up. The science project now complete. Cardboard field foil solar panels, tiny houses drawn with colored roofs. In the corner, a stick figure with yellow hair stood beside 3 smaller stick figures. Above them, Hazel had written in big letters, "The Lightsavers." Claire's throat tightened. She typed back, "Looks incredible. The sun should be nervous." 3 dots appeared. Then another message. "Hazel, you have to come when I show the class. We need an expert." Claire exhaled slowly. "Of course," she wrote. "I would not miss it." Her next breath felt like a lie already forming. That evening, as the sky turned the color of steel and the traffic thickened, she drove north. The blue house looked softer under the streetlight shadows pooling under the porch steps. The swing moved in the wind. Warm light seeped around the edges of the curtains. She carried a bag of groceries in one hand and her own unease in the other. Inside, the house smelled like tomato sauce and oregano. A pot bubbled on the stove. Music played low from a speaker in the corner, something with a steady beat and a familiar tune that she could not place. The girls were on the floor in the living room, the finished project in front of them. Emma was rereading the note cards for Hazel's presentation. Lucy had a pencil tucked behind her ear. Hazel was sticking a final star sticker on one of the tiny houses. "You are early," Eli called from the kitchen. "Dinner is still fighting me." "We are winning," Hazel announced. "Come see." Claire set the grocery bag on the counter and walked into the living room. The model looked even better in person. The panels had been straightened, extra trees drawn in little blue lines added to represent power lines. "You improved it," Claire said. "We added you," Hazel said, pointing to the stick figure. "So they know a real person does this." Eli joined them, wiping his hands on a dish towel. His hair was damp as if he had showered in a hurry. He smelled like soap and marinara. "You did not have to come on a Tuesday," he said. "We would have seen you tomorrow anyway." "I wanted to," she said. It made the next part harder. They ate spaghetti squeezed around the table sauce, splattering bread being torn and passed. Steam rose from each plate, clouding the air with warmth. Claire tried to taste it. She kept losing her appetite to the knot that was forming in her stomach. After the dishes were stacked in the sink and the girls had been temporarily distracted by a cartoon in the next room, she caught Eli's eye. "Can we talk?" she asked. Something in her tone made his expression shift. He nodded and led the way back to the kitchen. They stood near the sink between the clatter of dishes and the flicker of the television from the living room. The domestic sounds wrapped around them. "I have to fly to Tokyo," she said. "Thursday. The big partner there is wobbling. The board wants me there in person. It is supposed to be a week. It will probably be 2. He watched her face open. "When would you be back?" he asked. "If things go perfectly, 10 days, she said. "If they do not, it could stretch longer. I am trying to compress it, but time zones are not negotiable." He leaned his hip against the counter. "You do not sound happy about it," he said. "It is important," she said. "For the company. For all the projects that depend on this one. I know that in my bones." "I also promised Hazel I would be at her presentation on Tuesday." His eyes softened. "You cannot be in 2 places at once," he said. "Technically I can," she said. "Video call, pre-recorded messages, notes. None of them are the same as a person sitting in a folding chair with a terrible view of a classroom and clapping too loud." He was quiet for a moment. "Tell her the truth," he said. Hazel's head appeared around the corner. "Tell who the truth?" she asked. Claire smiled a little tight. "You," she said. "Come here." The girls piled into the kitchen, curiosity written all over their faces. "I have to go on a trip," Claire said, "for work, to Japan. There is a group there that wants to build big fields of solar panels, and there is a problem I need to help fix." Hazel's shoulders dropped. When she asked, "Thursday," Claire said. "I will be gone for at least a week, maybe more. I will miss your class presentation." Hazel's face crumpled for a second. She pressed her lips together hard. "Can we move the presentation?" she asked. "I can tell Mrs. Archer it is inconvenient." Claire's heart twisted. "I wish we could," she said, "but the other kids are ready. The calendar is set. I will be in a different time zone." Emma frowned. "Can you send a video?" she asked. "You can be like a giant head on the screen." "That is not a bad idea," Claire said. "If your teacher is all right with it, I can record something, or join for a bit if the timing works. I will definitely want to see the project again. Maybe you can present it to me when I get back, and we can eat cookies while I clap." Hazel sniffed. "Cookies help," she admitted. Lucy studied Claire's face. "Is it scary?" Lucy asked. "The thing you have to fix." "What the deal?" Claire said. "A little. It matters. If we lose it, a lot of things will change. For the company. For people who signed up for our projects. I am good at this part, though. I can help." "You should go then," Lucy said. "If you are good at it. That is why you are the boss." Claire let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. "I do not want you to think I am choosing them over you," she said quietly. Hazel stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Claire's waist. "You can have more than one important thing," Hazel said. "Dad says that all the time." Eli raised his eyebrows. "I do not remember saying it that well," he said. Emma joined the hug, her arms around Claire's middle face pressed into her sweater. "You will come back," Emma said. It was not framed as a question, but there was a question inside it. "Yes," Claire said. "I will come back. And I will text. And call when the time is right on both ends. You can send me videos. Of everything, even if it feels small." Hazel pulled back, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. "We can make a countdown chart," she said, "like for Christmas, but with your face." "That sounds alarming," Claire said. "Do it anyway." Later at the front door, when the girls had been herded upstairs with promises of bedtime stories, Claire stood with her hand on the knob. The hallway light framed Eli's shoulders, casting the rest of the house in softer shadow. The air near the door was cooler, a draft slipping under the frame. "I hate this part," she said. "The leaving?" he asked. "The splitting," she said. "Being in one place and feeling like I should be in 3 others." He nodded. "I used to feel that way at job sites," he said. "Half my brain on the steel beams, half on whether Amelia had remembered to bring snacks to the park. After she died, it was worse. Every time I climbed higher than the second floor, I felt like I was dragging a ghost up the ladder with me. What did you do? She asked. I came down, he said simply. I found work closer to the ground. I cannot tell you to walk away from Tokyo. That is your ground. But I can tell you this. He stepped a little closer. We will be here when you get back, he said. The house, the piano, the science project, the chaos, it is not going anywhere. Her eyes stung. That sounds very certain, she said. I am a man with 3 daughters, he said. I am familiar with stubborn forces of nature. She laughed, then sighed. They will be all right, he said. They will miss you. They will cover every free inch of paper with drawings to give you when you walk back through this door. They will definitely add extra glitter. Threat noted, she said. He reached up and brushed a thumb along her cheekbone. His hand was warm. He smelled faintly of soap and tomato. Go do what you are good at, he said. We will keep the light on. She leaned into his touch for a heartbeat, then stepped back and opened the door. Cold air slid in, biting at her ankles. Lock this, she said. So, your miniature escape artists do not decide to visit me across the ocean. I think even they have limits, he said. She walked down the porch steps, the boards creaking under her heels. At the bottom, she turned. He stood framed by the doorway light behind him, one hand on the edge as if holding it open for her, even from a distance. She tucked the image away like a photograph and carried it with her all the way to the airport. The flight to Tokyo was long and stretched by the time difference. The plane hummed, the cabin lights dimmed after dinner. Steam drifted from cups of tea on tray tables, thin lines in the dry air. Claire sat by the window. The city shrank beneath them, became a scatter of lights, then disappeared into cloud. She opened the Tokyo file pages of translated regulations and risk assessments. She tried to focus. Her eyes kept sliding to her phone where it lay on the armrest in airplane mode, black screen reflecting her own face. On the back of the seat pocket in front of her, Hazel's drawing was tucked like a talisman, 4 stick figures and a sun. The words, "The Lightsabers," in big, unsteady letters. In Tokyo, the hotel room was high above the city. Floor-to-ceiling glass looked out over towers and roads and neon. The room smelled faintly of linen spray and new carpet. Everything was gray and white, sleek and perfectly arranged. She ordered miso soup from room service on the first night. When it arrived, steam rose from the bowl in a steady column. It smelled good. The silence pressed in around it. She sat on the edge of the bed and watched a video on her phone. Lucy at the upright piano in their living room, playing the first half of a new piece. Emma, off-camera, whispering the count. Hazel forgetting to whisper and singing nonsense lyrics over the melody until Mrs. Patel shushed her. Another video. Hazel at the front of her classroom, the project on a table beside her. The sound was muffled, but Claire could hear the words energy and future and saving light. The camera wobbled when someone clapped. Eli must have filmed it on his phone. A photo. Emma holding up a library book half the size of her torso. A caption. Saved a spot for you on the couch. Claire sent back a picture of her hotel view. Not as good as the Blue House, she wrote. Time zones played tricks. Sometimes her morning was their night. Sometimes she texted while they slept and woke up to a flood of messages. Hazel, we added Japan to our map. It is far. Please do not fall off. Emma, our teacher liked your video. She said you are very clear. That is a compliment. Lucy, I practiced my piece 3 times. Dad cried only once. Eli, everyone misses you, including the science project, which is now on our dining table permanently. She replied whenever she could. Between meetings in glass offices that smelled of coffee and printer ink, in the back of cars that slid through rain on narrow streets. Late at night, in the hotel shoes kicked off under the desk tie from the day slung over a chair. They negotiated with the Tokyo partners in rooms that never seemed to change temperature. They talked about risk and reputation, about long-term investment and short-term pain. Claire spoke slowly through interpreters and contract clauses about commitment and vision. Each morning before she walked into those meetings, she glanced at her phone wallpaper. It was a new picture now, one Lucy had taken. Claire on the couch, hair a little messy, Hazel leaning against her shoulder, Emma in her lap with a book, Lucy on the floor by their feet. Glitter and sawdust visible on the rug. The deal did not fall apart. It also did not settle easily. It took exactly as long as the Asia operations head had predicted, plus 2 days for everyone to decide they needed one more round of signatures. By the time she boarded the plane back to Chicago, her body felt like it existed in at least 3 time zones. Her eyes ached. Her throat was dry from recycled air and translations. She texted Eli before they closed the cabin door. Leaving Tokyo, landing around 5 your time. He answered a minute later. We will be at the house. There is a banner I was not allowed to supervise. The flight home was a blur of half-sleep and movie soundtracks. When the wheels finally met the runway at O'Hare, the jolt ran up through the seat and into her spine. She powered her phone on as they taxied. Messages flooded in. A photo from Hazel of a paper chain with loops being torn off. A note from Emma asking about clouds seen from above. A single line from Eli. "Welcome home." The word home sat on the screen bright and insistent. At the curb outside the arrivals hall, taxis idled in a line. Cold wind pushed against her coat, carrying the smell of exhaust and old snow. A driver stepped forward, lifting a hand. "Where to?" he asked as he took her suitcase. Claire hesitated for a second. Then she gave him the address of the blue house. The cab pulled away from the airport and slid onto the expressway. Chicago rose around them, yellow and white lights strung along the dark line of the horizon. Claire leaned her head back against the seat and watched the city roll past. She caught her reflection in the window, hair pulled back in a low knot that had started to come loose somewhere over the Pacific. Skin pale under the cabin tan of fluorescent light, the collar of her coat was still creased from the airplane seat. "How far is Evanston again?" the driver asked. "Not far," she said. 20 minutes if we are lucky." They were. Traffic was light. They left the highway, moved through side streets with old trees and quiet houses. The snow that had fallen earlier in the week clung to shaded corners gray around the edges. When the cab turned onto Eli's street, Claire's chest tightened. The blue house stood with its porch light glowing a warm circle in the cold. The tire swing in the yard was still a dark shape against the lighter snow. Light spilled out around the edges of the curtains in the front window. As they rolled closer, she saw something stretched across the living room, half hidden by the frame of the window. Colors, shapes. "Here is good," she said. The driver pulled into the curb. Cold rushed in as she opened the door. Her breath puffed white. She paid tipped and grabbed the handle of her suitcase. "Have a good night," the driver said. "You too," she answered. The suitcase wheels bumped along the uneven path to the porch. The boards creaked under her weight, the sound familiar now. Up close, she could see the banner in the front window taped slightly crooked. "Welcome home. Claire." It read in big block letters. Some letters leaned, others crowded together. The C leaned so much it almost touched the L. There were glitter stars dotting the paper. They had shed onto the windowsill in a fine, sparkling drift. Her throat closed around a breath. She did not even get the chance to knock. The door opened on its own. Hazel stood there, one hand on the knob hair, frizzed from moving too fast. "You came," Hazel said, as if there had been a real chance she would not. "I told you I would," Claire said. Hazel launched herself forward and wrapped both arms around Claire's waist. The impact made Claire laugh and stumble half a step, suitcase tilting. "Careful," Eli said from somewhere behind Hazel. "Let her inside before you crush her." Lucy appeared next, shouldering Hazel out of the way to get her own share of contact. Emma hovered at the edge, eyes wide and shining, then stepped in and clung to Claire's arm. "You are squishing her," Lucy said. "You are squishing her," Hazel argued. "I like it," Claire said. "I have been in rooms full of people for 2 weeks and no one hugged me once. This is better." Eli stood in the hallway, one hand on the frame, like he had rehearsed the casual stance and then forgotten part of it. He wore jeans and a soft, worn t-shirt. His hair was a little flatter on one side, as if he had been lying on the couch and jumped up. "Hi," he said. "Hi," she answered. The word felt full. He reached for the suitcase handle. "Let me take that," he said. "You look like you wrestled it through a couple of time zones." "That is because I did," she said. She stepped over the threshold. The warmth of the house wrapped around her at once. It smelled like something sweet and something savory, as if there had been both cookies and soup here within the last few hours. A lamp on the side table cast a soft pool of light over the entryway. The bench by the door held 3 small pairs of boots and 1 pair of sneakers. The hooks were crowded with coats and scarves. Glitter still clung in a faint trail along the hallway rug, catching the light when she moved. The banner was more impressive up close. The letters were cut out of construction paper and taped onto a long strip of white. Each letter had been outlined in a different color. Someone had drawn a tiny solar panel above the O. Hazel had strong opinions about the design, Eli said quietly as she looked at it. "It is perfect," Claire said. "You can stay for 5 seconds, Hazel said, tugging at her sleeve. "Then you have to see everything we did." 5 seconds is not a long time, Claire said. "Fine," Hazel said. 7. They did not wait for her to take off her coat before they pulled her into the living room. The science project sat in a place of honor on the dining table, just as Eli had said. The cardboard field had acquired more details. Tiny stick figures with little speech bubbles stood around the panels. Someone had drawn a cat on one of the roofs. That is Mr. Whiskers, Hazel said. He needs light, too. On the wall nearby, new drawings had joined the old ones. In one, a woman with yellow hair drawn taller than the others stood between three smaller figures. All four held hands. Above them, the same sun with the same bold lines. You have been busy, Claire said. Emma nodded. We did not want you to miss everything she said, so we kept making things. Lucy tugged gently on Claire's sleeve. I learned the whole second page of my new piece, Lucy said. I can play it without stopping. Do you want to hear, or are you too tired from the plane? I want to hear, Claire said at once. They migrated toward the piano. Eli drifted along carrying her suitcase to lean against the wall, then disappearing into the kitchen. The kettle started to hum a minute later. Lucy sat at the bench, straightened her back, and placed her fingers on the keys. The first notes curled into the air, strong and sure. Claire stood behind her, one hand resting lightly on the corner of the instrument. Lucy did not falter. When she reached the end, she lifted her hands slowly, letting the last sound echo in the small room. That was beautiful, Claire said. Lucy looked up. I did not miss any this time, she said, pride and relief mixed in her voice. I heard, Eli said from the doorway. He held a mug in each hand, steam rising in twin thin streams. It was perfect. He handed a mug to Claire. Tea, he said, with honey. You sound like you might need it. She wrapped her fingers around the ceramic. The heat sank into her skin. She breathed in the steam, the faint scent of chamomile, and something floral. Her bones felt heavier than they had in days. Jet lag pulled at the edges of her thoughts, but the fog that had wrapped around her in Tokyo seemed to lift a little here. I missed this, she said before she could stop herself. Hazel took that as permission to climb onto the couch and flop sideways, legs dangling over the arm. Emma tucked herself into the opposite corner with a blanket. Lucy hovered near the piano as if torn between staying there and joining the pile. Come sit down before you pass out, standing, Eli said. She sank onto the couch beside Hazel, mug held carefully. How was the big thing, Hazel asked. Did you fix it? We made progress, Claire said. We signed new papers. There were a lot of meetings. Some of them felt like arguments, some of them felt like puzzles. In the end, they agreed to keep working with us. So the light farms are safe, Hazel asked. For now, Claire said. We gave them reasons to believe they are worth the trouble. Emma peered at her over the rim of the blanket. Was the hotel nice, she asked. It was very tall and very quiet, Claire said. There was a bathtub big enough to swim in, and a bed so soft I thought it might eat me. I spent most of my time in glass rooms with people who wore suits even on Saturdays. Did you eat soup? Lucy asked. I did, Claire said. It was good, but it was not as good as the one with the noodles from Marino's. Hazel nodded, satisfied. Good, she said. We were worried you might forget our soup. I did not forget anything, Claire said. She looked at them, at the way their faces turned toward her in different angles. At Emma's thoughtful gaze, at Hazel's direct stare, at the way Lucy's fingers still tapped a silent rhythm on her leg. I thought about you all the time, she said. They seemed to absorb that, then drifted into another flurry of questions. Did she see any vending machines with weird drinks? Were the toilets in Japan really that fancy? Did anyone recognize her from the video Hazel's class had watched? They traded stories until the tea in her mug cooled, and a yawn snuck up on her. Eli caught it. All right, he said. It is past bedtime for everyone under 8, and at least one person over 30. I am not tired, Hazel protested mid-yawn. Emma slid off the couch and came to stand in front of Claire. Will you be here in the morning? She asked. Yes, Claire said. The answer came easily this time. Good, Emma said. Then we can have breakfast that is not cereal. That sounds ambitious, Eli said. We will see. The good nights took a while. Each girl needed a separate hug, then a group one, then one more, in case the first did not count. They went up the stairs in a cluster slippers, whispering against the carpet, voices fading, as they argued gently about who got to use the bathroom first. Mrs. Patel appeared from the kitchen, cardigan pulled tight hair in a loose bun. You are back, she said. I can go home now and stop spying on them for you. You like spying, Eli said. I do, she admitted. But I like my own bed too. She squeezed Claire's shoulder on her way out. These girls talked about you every day, she said quietly. They saved you a seat at dinner, even when I reminded them you were far away. That is not something they do for just anyone. When the door closed behind her, the house grew quieter. The lamp by the couch cast a warm circle on the rug. In its light, the fine dust of sawdust near the doorway shimmered next to a familiar scatter of glitter. Eli sank onto the couch beside Claire. You look exhausted, he said. I am, she said. She set her empty mug on the table and leaned back, letting her head rest against the cushion. They sat in silence for a moment. The only sounds were the faint creaks of the house settling and the muffled murmur of the girls upstairs. How are you? Eli asked. It was an ordinary question, and he asked it in an ordinary tone, but he watched her with unusual care. She thought about all the ways she could answer. Fine, busy, it went well. I am glad the deal did not fall apart, she said. I am glad I do not have to tell a lot of people that a year's work just burned up on a conference table. I am very tired. I missed this couch. I missed your kitchen. I missed them. He nodded slowly. The house felt wrong without you in it, he said. She turned her head to look at him. It is their house, she said. It is ours, he said, simple and steady. Theirs mine, and recently, whether you admitted it to yourself or not, yours too. Her chest felt too tight and too open at the same time. I kept looking at empty chairs, he said. At dinner, at the recital, at Hazel's presentation. It felt like the space next to me had a shape now, and when you were gone, it was just missing. Her eyes stung. Lucy sent me a picture from the recital, she said. She took it from the stage. You were blurry, but I could see you. I zoomed in until it pixelated. He smiled small and crooked. Did it help? He asked. A little, she said. She sat up a bit, folding one leg under her, turning toward him fully. I have been thinking, she said. Always a dangerous start, he said. I know, she said. I thought about how this started with soup and fever and 3 small miracle workers. I thought about airports and boardrooms and how I used to come home to a place with high ceilings and empty walls. I thought about this living room with its glitter and sawdust and piano that is slightly out of tune on the low end. His eyebrows lifted, but he stayed quiet. I love them, she said. The words came out clear. Saying them out loud felt like stepping over a line she had been hovering near for weeks. Lucy and her lists and her shoulders that are always a little higher when she is worried. Hazel and her declarations. Emma and the way she notices everything and pretends she does not. I love all of it, all. She searched his face and kept going. And I love you, she said, which is terrifying, and also not surprising at all. For a second he did not move. His eyes shone. His throat seemed to work around a word that did not want to be stuck. He cleared it and lifted a hand, resting it lightly on her cheek. They are entirely in love with you, he said. They talk about you when you are not here, as if you are some kind of superhero who eats spicy food and fixes the future. That is a very specific superhero, she said. It fits, he said. His fingers traced a small arc along her jaw. As for their father, he said he has been gone for you since you sat on the edge of his bed with a spoon in your hand and told him to open his mouth. She laughed, the sound wet. That is a ridiculous origin story, she said. It is ours, he said. He leaned in and kissed her. It was not tentative this time. It was sure and slow and full of all the minutes they had spent thinking about this while doing dishes, while sanding boards, while reading bedtime stories. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. Good, she whispered, because I do not want to unknow any of this. On the landing above them, 3 small shapes crouched near the banister. Hazel's hair stuck up in every direction. Lucy's hand covered her mouth. Emma's eyes were wide and soft. They said it, Hazel breathed. I told you they would. Shh, Lucy whispered, but she was smiling so hard her cheeks hurt. Emma tucked her chin on the rail and watched the 2 figures on the couch, wrapped in the glow of the lamp and the soft clutter of the room. For the first time in a long time, the house felt not just full, but complete. By the time April settled in the snow, the yard had finally given up. The grass outside the workshop was still patchy and dull, but the air had changed. It smelled less like ice and more like thawing earth and rain. Inside the workshop, it smelled like sawdust and orange oil. Eli stood at the main workbench, sanding the edge of a small box. It fit in both his hands. The olive wood he had chosen had a quiet grain lines that curved around knots like waves around a rock. Mother of pearl inlay traced a thin band across the lid, catching the light from the overhead lamp. Is it smooth? Emma asked. She stood on a milk crate beside him, peering at the box with serious eyes. Tiny flecks of dust clung to her eyelashes. Feel, he said. She reached in, fingers gentle, and ran her fingertips along the edge. It does not scratch, she said. It feels like the kitchen table. That is the goal, he said. Lucy sat cross-legged on the floor, sorting through a shoebox full of photographs. It was a record of the last year in their house, printed on matte paper, edges still crisp. She had organized them into stacks. First night with soup. First real date dinner at Rosa's that someone had snapped on a phone when they thought the couple was not looking. Piano recitals, board game battles. Hazel asleep on the couch, between Claire and Eli, 1 foot still in a sneaker. Where does this go? Lucy asked, holding up a photo of Claire in the workshop, sawdust on her cheek, laughing. Near the end, Eli said. Somewhere the light hits it. Hazel was in charge of the actual light. She and Emma had strung fairy lights along the rafters earlier, looping them around beams, letting them hang in soft curves. Now, she stood back and squinted, hands on hips as if adjusting a stage. "She will see the pictures first," Hazel said. "Then the lights, then us, then the box." "Do not trip over the cords," Eli said. "We are professionals," she said. Emma left the crate and climbed down landing with a soft thud. She went to the shelf where the ring waited. They had all gone together to find it. A small vintage jewelry store with old velvet trays and a man behind the counter who talked too much. Hazel had insisted on trying on half the selection. Emma had asked questions about where the stones came from. Lucy had watched Claire's face in old photos on her phone, trying to imagine what would make her smile. In the end, they chose a ring with a deep blue stone the color of late evening. Tiny diamonds circled it, not loud, not shy, just steady. Emma held the ring in its small black box, now careful as if carrying a bird. "Careful," Eli said anyway. "I am careful," she said. "You are the one who almost fell off the ladder hanging the lights." "That is slander," he said. Lucy snorted. They worked for another hour until the photos were taped along a path on the wall, leading from the door, deeper into the workshop. The fairy lights glowed overhead, soft and warm, making the dust in the air sparkle. Near the back, between two sawhorses, Eli had cleared a space. The finished jewelry box sat there on a small table lid closed, ring inside. Beside it lay a sheet of paper, where Hazel had written the words. They had practiced each line in a different color. Eli wiped his palms on his jeans. They were sweating, which seemed unfair. He had built staircases, cabinets, tables that took months. He had climbed cranes in the rain. He had walked 3 squirming babies around the block alone when nothing else would calm them. None of that had made his hands shake the way this night did. Lucy checked the time on her watch. She texted, she said, "She is 10 minutes away." "All right," Eli said. "Places," Hazel ordered too loudly. Emma picked up the jewelry box and placed it carefully on the small table. Hazel straightened the paper of lines one more time. Lucy flicked off the overhead work lights, leaving only the fairy lights and the soft glow from the small lamp near the door. The workshop transformed. Shadows melted into the corners. The strings of light turned the space into something almost magical. The sawdust on the floor caught the glow, tiny specks shining like a field of stars. They heard the car in the driveway. Gravel crunched. A door closed. The murmur of the front door opening, the distant sound of the girls calling out, timed too casually. "Okay," Hazel whispered. "Okay, breathe." They waited. A moment later, the side door to the workshop creaked. Eli, Claire called. "Your front door conspirators told me you needed an opinion on a table." Her silhouette filled the doorway. The rectangle of night behind her framed her in darker blue. She wore a light jacket against the cool air, hair loose around her shoulders. She paused on the threshold. The workshop was not lit the way she expected. Fairy lights cast a low, warm glow. Photos lined the wall, in a path, edges lifting slightly in the faint draft. She took a step inside. The smell of wood and stain and cold night air mixed together. "Wow," she said quietly. She moved closer to the first photo. Her on the edge of his bed with the soup hair pinned up, face serious and soft. The girls grouped around the footboard, watching. The next, her standing at the stove in the Walker's small kitchen, sleeves rolled up, stirring sauce, Hazel perched on the counter beside her. Another, the 5 of them at the park, the tire swing in motion, Eli pushing Claire, laughing, her hair blown across her face. Someone had caught at the exact moment before she pushed the hair away. Each step she took, another piece of their year made itself visible. A blurred shot of Lucy walking off the recital stage. Hazel in mid-speech at the science fair, arms wide. Emma and Claire reading on the couch, both heads bowed over the same page. She felt the muscles in her chest tightening and loosening in turns. At the end of the path, in the cleared space between the sawhorses, Eli waited. He wore a button-down shirt, sleeves rolled to his forearms, jeans that were clean enough to prove effort, but familiar enough not to look borrowed. His hair was tidier than usual, though a stubborn strand still fell across his forehead. To his left, Lucy, Emma, and Hazel stood shoulder to shoulder. Hazel held the sheet of colored lines. Emma clutched her own hands together. Lucy looked like she might vibrate out of her shoes. Claire stopped just inside the circle of light. "What is all this?" she asked, though she knew. Eli took a small breath. "It is a story," he said. "Ours, so far." He sank to one knee on the concrete floor. It was not graceful. His left boot squeaked as he shifted his weight. Sawdust puffed up a little. All 3 girls dropped down with him, knees hitting the floor in a soft chorus. The symmetry was so absurd and so right that Claire laughed a choked sound. Hazel lifted the paper. "We worked very hard on this," she said. "No one is allowed to make fun of my handwriting." She cleared her throat, then read. You walked into our house when we did not know we needed you, she began. You brought soup. You brought games. You brought yourself. Emma took over, voice quieter but steady. You listened when Dad talked about hard things, she read. You listened when we talked about silly things. You came to recitals and projects and bedtime stories. Lucy read the last lines. You told us that light could be saved for later, she said. You helped us see that love could be too. Her eyes shone. Now we have a question, she said. Emma reached for the small table, opened the jewelry box, and turned it toward Claire. The ring lay in its nest of dark velvet, the blue stone catching every glint from the fairy lights above. Eli looked up at her. His eyes carried every laugh, every late night, every ache of the last years. Claire Rivers, he said, you walked through that door when you could have walked away. You let 3 small agents of chaos adopt you before any of us knew what that meant. You turned this house into something warmer just by being in it. He swallowed, then held out his hand. Will you marry us? He asked. All 4 of us. For a second, the room was very quiet. The heater hummed in the corner. Somewhere outside, a car passed. Inside, the fairy lights gleamed off sawdust and metal and skin. Claire's vision blurred. She blinked, and the scene cleared again, sharper than before. She sank to her knees without thinking, the concrete cool through her jeans. The girls rushed closer, surrounding her, small hands landing on her arms, her shoulders. She cupped Eli's face in her hands for a moment, thumbs brushing the faint stubble along his jaw. Yes, she said. Yes, I will marry you. I will marry all of you. Hazel whooped so loudly the heater rattled. Emma burst into tears and then laughed at herself for it. Lucy exhaled a long, trembly breath she seemed to have been holding for weeks. Eli slid the ring onto her finger. It fit in a way that felt inevitable. Claire looked down at her hand, at the blue stone now resting above a faint dusting of sawdust. Glitter from an old project clung to the cuff of her sleeve, catching the light beside it. This feels right, she said. Sawdust and glitter, Eli said, our natural habitat. They all leaned in at once, a tangle of arms and hair and warm breath, the 5 of them in the middle of the workshop, beneath the soft glow of the lights and the watchful eyes of a year's worth of photographs. Outside the yard, waited the house, waited, the world turned. Inside, in that small circle of light, a family said yes to itself. On Saturday morning, the smoke alarm spoke before anyone else did. It chirped once, then twice, then let out a full-throated shriek above the kitchen. Everyone stay calm, Claire said, waving a dish towel at the ceiling. I have it under control. You said that about the last batch, Hazel called from the table. The skillet on the stove smoked faintly. What had started as pancake batter now resembled a map of a country that had survived several natural disasters. Butter hissed along the edges. The air smelled like crisping sugar and almost burnt vanilla. Lucy jumped up on a chair and pressed the button on the alarm with practiced precision. It quieted with a beep and a sulky blink of its red light. Mom, Emma said, trying not to smile. The recipe said at low heat. Claire squinted at the stove. I am an executive, she said. Low is a suggestion I am still learning to trust. She flipped the pancake. A blackened edge lifted, revealing a center that was at least recognizable. Hazel leaned forward and chin on her hands. I like them crispy, she said. It feels like eating a secret. That is not what that word means, Lucy said. It can mean whatever I decide this morning, Hazel replied. The floorboards near the stairs creaked. Eli appeared in the doorway, hair-rumpled t-shirt soft from years of washing. I smell danger, he said, and sugar. Claire pushed a lock of hair out of her face with the back of her wrist. Flour dusted her cheekbone, a pale streak against her skin. Good morning, she said. You are just in time to witness my culinary evolution. He crossed the room, brushed a kiss against her temple, and peered into the pan. Looks edible, he said, from a certain angle. Thank you for your support, she said. He reached for a plate, slid the newest pancake onto it, and handed it to Hazel. Test subject number 1, he said. Hazel took a bite. Chewed, and nodded. It tastes like Saturday, she said, and smoke, but mostly Saturday. Claire laughed, tension she had not noticed she was holding, easing a little. The next ones will be better, she said. The next ones will be eaten no matter what, Lucy said. We have a big day. We cannot be late. Emma took over, pouring batter. She measured carefully, made small circles in the center of the pan. The smell of fresh pancakes layered itself over the remnants of the burned ones. Steam lifted in soft ribbons. They crowded around the table, pajamas and hair still wild. Syrup dripped onto plates, butter melted into golden edges. The coffee in Eli's mug cooled as he watched them elbow on the table, hand wrapped around the ceramic. Claire sat between Lucy and Hazel Emma across from her. Her ring flashed when she reached for the juice, the blue stone catching the morning light. "Do you think the judge will be nice?" Emma asked. "I hope so," Claire said. "I wore my least intimidating blazer." Hazel stabbed another bite. "Do we have to be serious?" she asked. "Or can we say funny things?" "You should probably not shout when the judge is talking," Eli said. "Other than that, you can be yourselves." Hazel considered. "I will be the quiet version of myself," she decided. "That will last 10 minutes, Lucy murmured. 10 is better than none, Emma said. After breakfast, the pace picked up. Clothes were changed, hair brushed and braided. Ties were abandoned, and then re-attempted with Claire's help. Shoes were found under couches and behind doors. At one point, glitter appeared on Lucy's cuff, despite no recent craft projects, as if the house itself refused to let go of it. They drove downtown together. The car was unusually quiet. Outside, the city was pale under a thin layer of cloud, the building softened by the light. The courthouse stood solid in gray stone steps leading up to glass doors. The security line smelled of old coffee and winter coats. People waited with folders and tired faces. Inside the hallway, outside family court, was lined with benches. A few other families sat there, children swinging their legs, grown-ups checking watches. A clerk with a badge called their name. "Walker Rivers," she said. "You can go in now." The courtroom itself was smaller than Claire had imagined. A wooden railing, a few rows of seats, a raised bench where the judge sat. The judge was a woman with kind eyes and silver hair pulled into a bun. She smiled when she saw the cluster of them. "Well," she said, "you must be my 9:00 clock." Hazel tugged at Claire's hand. "We are all 4 of your 9:00 clock," she whispered. They stood at a table in front of the bench. Claire on one side, Eli beside her, the girls fanned out like petals. Papers were stacked neatly in front of them, signatures already on every line that mattered. The judge glanced through the file, then looked over her glasses at Claire. "Claire Rivers," she said, "you are petitioning to adopt Lucy Emma and Hazel Walker." "Yes, Your Honor," Claire said. "How long have you been in their lives?" the judge asked. "A little over 2 years," Claire said. "It feels both longer and shorter." "Do the girls understand what this means?" the judge asked, turning her attention to them. Lucy nodded. Emma did too. Hazel lifted her hand. "It means she is our mom on paper now," Hazel said. "But she has been our mom in real life for a while." The judge's mouth twitched. "Paper is important," she said. "Real life is too." She glanced at Eli. "And you," she said, "are you sure about sharing parent status? It is not reversible." Eli squeezed Claire's fingers. "I am very sure," he said. "She has been here for homework, for recitals, for stomach bugs, for glitter explosions. I cannot imagine doing any of that without her. I do not want to." Lucy leaned toward the microphone. "Also, she said she makes terrible pancakes, but she keeps trying. That seems important." The courtroom chuckled. Claire covered her eyes briefly with her free hand. The judge smiled fully now. "It seems to me," she said, "that this family knows exactly what it is doing." She picked up her pen. "By the authority given to me by the state of Illinois," she said, "I grant this adoption. Lucy Emma and Hazel Walker will now also be known as Lucy Emma and Hazel Rivers Walker. Congratulations." Her gavel touched the block with a soft final tap. Hazel let out a cheer she tried to muffle at the last second. Emma breathed out in a rush that sounded like relief. Lucy's eyes shone as she looked up at Claire. The clerk took a quick photo for their file, all 5 of them bunched together in front of the bench. The judge leaned over from her chair so she could fit in the frame too. For a heartbeat, the room felt suspended like a page someone had flipped open to just the right place. Outside on the courthouse steps, the air felt colder and sharper. People streamed past, going in and out, living their own stories. Hazel spun once, skirt flaring. "You are officially stuck with us," she told Claire. "I am counting on it," Claire said. They celebrated in small ways. Hot chocolate at a cafe around the corner, whipped cream smearing onto noses. A walk through a nearby park where the girls tried to balance on patches of leftover ice, and Eli pretended not to see. In the weeks that followed, life filled in around the new paperwork. Eli's furniture business took up more space in the workshop. A second workbench appeared. An apprentice started coming by 3 afternoons a week, listening carefully when Eli talked about respecting the grain. Claire's investment had been quiet, tucked into the background, but it let him take on projects for the community center and a shelter that needed sturdy beds. Claire's foundation, the one she had once planned mostly on planes, opened a small technology space in the neighborhood. It had computers, 3D printers, and a corner where kids could take apart old electronics and see what made them tick. Hazel appointed herself chief tester. Emma kept a list of every book on the shelves. Lucy campaigned for more science kits. Sometimes, after long days, Claire would arrive at the blue house to find the living room full of cardboard models and wires. Eli would look up from a laptop balanced on his knees, sawdust still on his sleeves, and say, "We are experimenting like that," explained everything. Most nights it did. On their first wedding anniversary, months after the papers were signed and the new nameplates arrived in the mail, Claire gave Eli a framed photograph. It was the one Mrs. Patel had taken without them knowing that first night. Eli in bed, eyes half closed, face flushed from fever. Claire seated beside him on the edge of the mattress, soup on the nightstand. 3 small blonde heads visible at the doorway watching. He held the framed thumb running along the edge. "Look at us," he said. "We had no idea." "I thought I was just making sure a stranger did not choke on noodles," she said. He set the frame on the mantel. The fire in the grate hissed softly. Glitter in an old drawing above it caught the light. "Can you imagine," he asked, "what would have happened if they had stayed home that night?" Claire thought of the restaurant, of the empty cocktail glass, of the phone with no new messages. "I would have gone back to my apartment," she said. "Answered emails, fallen asleep with my laptop open. That is it." He shook his head. "I like this version better," he said. From the kitchen came a sudden clatter. A spoon hit the floor. Something else toppled. "We did not do it," 3 voices shouted in overlapping panic. Claire and Eli looked at each other, then started laughing at the same time. "Give them a minute," Claire said. "They usually fix the first thing they break while they create a second disaster." They stepped out onto the porch for a breath of cool air. The sky was fading toward evening, streaks of pink lingering where the sun had been. The tire swing moved a little in the breeze. The windows of the house glowed against the dimming light. Claire leaned against the railing. Eli stood beside her, their shoulders touching. "Sometimes I think about that night," she said. "The restaurant, the lobby, Lucy saying my name like a mission." He smiled. "Our dad is sick, so we came. Instead," he said. "That is what Hazel told you." "Right. That is what she said," Claire answered. They watched as a light flicked on upstairs, then off again. The faint sound of music drifted through the open window, tangled with the low hum of their daughters' voices. "It was a strange beginning," she said. "It was exactly the one we needed," he said. She reached for his hand. He laced their fingers together. The ring on her finger pressed cool against his skin. Inside the house, the warmth gathered, waiting for them to step back through the door. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.